Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Speaking of the playbook, today a federal panel ruled that the Ohio congressional districts are unconstitutional because of clear partisan gerrymandering. Henry, go to my iPad. What you're seeing right now, folks, this is actually the congressional districts in Ohio. There are 4 congressional districts. Now, if you look at this map, you can see how how you really have these concentration of voters in Republican districts, but how you have this sort of snake effect, if you will, for the Democratic districts. This is an effort for them to keep Democratic voters out of some areas, to guarantee Republicans are in control. This ruling by the federal court, folks, was unbelievable. And what's also interesting is that Democrats have been talking about Republicans have been quiet. Here's this line here. Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur testified in the case that her district was hacked apart by Republicans. The so-called snake by the lake stretches in a thin line from Toledo to Ohio. And that's how they have actually drawn these districts. The federal judges basically said this is undeniable plans by Republicans to disenfranchise Democratic voters. Now, why is this a huge issue? Because we are seeing gerrymandering take place all across the country. There's a district in Maryland where Republicans are criticizing Republicans are criticizing Democrats. You have gerrymandering in Wisconsin. They ran the numbers. If Democrats win 55% of all seats, they still are in the minority in Wisconsin because of how the Republicans have created these districts. You might remember in the last election, the federal courts threw out the districts in Pennsylvania. That's why Democrats were able to pick up seats in Congress. You also have gerrymandering taking place in North Carolina, in Michigan, all across the country. What's the problem? Supreme Court. The conservative Supreme Court could very well allow this to take place. If they allow this to take place, Julian, you're going to see every Republican legislature immediately create not just congressional districts, but state Senate district, state representative districts all across the country that will guarantee they remain in power and completely disenfranchise Democratic voters. And what that means, disenfranchising Black people, disenfranchising Latinos.
You know, the thing about it, Roland, is that it's also a census issue. We're looking at coming up on the 2020 census. We're going to look at lines being drawn around that. The congressional districts, appropriations hinge on some of that in terms of population, how that happens. Really, we're talking about a complete takeover by the Republicans of every chamber of legislature where you have Republicans. So no, they won't get California, and there are a couple other places they won't get. They probably won't get much of Maryland, but they will get Ohio, they will get Wisconsin, probably get Michigan, Texas, and we can just call the roll. This is patently unfair, but what we have to recall is that this was not intended to be fair. There have been some naive Democrats who run around talking about fairness. Well, there is no fairness when you have predatory capitalism and basically dollars are on the table. And that's what's going on. Dollars are on the table, people's rights are on the table, and we can look at what we just talked about in terms of Florida. We can look at what we're talking about in terms of Tennessee. We can look all over the country, and the point is that these folks want absolute utter dominance, because what's at stake is not just our voting rights, it's our economic rights. We look at what's happening with the Labor Department passing regulations that don't go through Congress that are taking away people's rights. So that's what's at stake, our basic survival.
Teresa, look at this story here from about Pennsylvania, where the state Supreme Court overthrew it. They have some of the most gerrymandered districts there in Pennsylvania. On the congressional side, Democrats won 51% of the statewide popular vote in U.S. House races, yet only won 5 out of 18 congressional districts. The state Supreme Court blasted it, said it was clear and plain that this was partisan politics at play here.
I agree. And a friend of mine works for Common Cause PA, so that was actually the focal point of their research. And we actually saw that play out here in one of the 6 or 7 counties in PA, which is Philadelphia. where there was a debate about some of the districts and the way they were being redistricted and how the people wanted to be a part of that redistricting structure. And so when we had an election in 2017, it was for Congressman Brendan Boyle and a new elected candidate. We saw some of his district actually get shifted into a majority white area, where it had more of the suburban area district, which would actually be more to his benefit as a Democrat, but more so cut off from some of the minorities. So I think, also talking about that split and the way that happened, because, if elected officials feels comfortable in a certain area where most of the people are either liberal or LGBTQIA, I think, or Catholic, I think, that's also a way that it also suggests a vote either way. So we need to take a look at that as well.
Johanna, I'm showing right now, this is the Wisconsin gerrymandering. And look at this map. Look at how they did it. First of all, in 2008, Democrats had 52 seats. Republicans, first of all, Democrats had 52 seats, got 1.47 million votes. Republicans had 46 seats, got 1.172 million votes. Let's go to 2010. Democrats got 38 seats after gerrymandering. Republicans got 60. Okay, vote totals 838,000, 1.1 million. I'm sorry, 2010 was when we had the midterm elections. This was the impact of the midterm elections. 2 years later, now mind you, 2008, again, for the people who are watching at home, I'm walking you through this because the problem is when you hear political gerrymandering, people go, it's like, okay, I don't really know what the hell that is. This has a direct impact on power. Julian laid it out, a direct impact on resources. So in 2008, when it was 52-46 Democrats, okay? Democrats got more votes. 2010 midterm elections, Republicans landslide across the country. They got 1.1 million votes, 160 seats. Democrats had 838,000 votes, 138. But this was the impact just 2 years later. 2 years later, Democrats got 1.4 million votes statewide in Wisconsin. Only 139 seats, Johanna. Republicans got 1.2 million votes, 200,000 less, yet won 60 seats. This is about power, resources, control. And what does this mean? This impacts judges. It impacts civil rights. It impacts environmental rights. It impacts women's rights. And this guarantees, Republican control of state legislatures, which means gubernatorial mansions. And you see what happened in North Carolina when they passed bills, strip power from the Democratic governor, which is the same thing Republicans are trying to do right now in Kansas, trying to do right now in Wisconsin. Johanna.
As everyone has articulated, gerrymandering is about who gets what, when, and how, right? So the fact that you have politicians, and not only politicians, we have to keep this in mind, interest groups who are fighting to ensure that certain individuals have access to certain districts says something. It says that your vote matters, right? Which is why, it is critical for you to partake in this duty that you have.
Yeah, but also, when they're trying to take the vote, fully incarcerated in Florida, when they're trying to use voter suppression and voter ID, throwing in gerrymandering, it is there to frustrate you so you don't care and you stay at home and you say, I got no power. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the point I was trying to make is, you have to be, to resist those systems, right? And we have to rally ourselves and to fight. And the attorneys who are experts when it comes to voting laws, right? When it comes to gerrymandering, we have to fight. Nothing that African Americans have gotten in America has been handed to us. We have to fight for everything that we have.
And let me say,
to vote, our right to housing, our right to even being labeled as human beings, not animal, right? We have to fight for it all. So we have to continue to fight.
And let me say this to all y'all people out there who running your damn mouth in 2016, who said Hillary Clinton was the same as Donald Trump. What I'm about to say ain't got a damn thing to do with who's a Democrat, who's a Republican, who's liberal or conservative. It's called the outcome of elections. And that is this. You were a damn fool for trying to say that Hillary Clinton is the same as Donald Trump. I don't give a damn if you disagree with her super predator comment, which I did. I don't care if you didn't like all of her policies. Here is the result of 2016. Merrick Garland got screwed. Obama got screwed because he played the game trying to be fair. Republicans were never going to play fair. He should have appointed a black woman because that would have got people all more fired up to vote in 2016. And I still contend that. And Obama people, y'all love them all you want to, but I don't give a damn. Should have appointed a black woman. So what happened? Republicans win. Trump wins. He appoints Neil Gorsuch. Okay, the 5th conservative vote on the Supreme Court. Then, of course, Kennedy retires. What do? Replace him with Kavanaugh, also on the right. Kennedy was the one who was a swing vote on gerrymandering. Gorsuch could very well be the one to say gerrymandering is fine. So some of y'all are sitting at home right now, and it's 2020, and y'all are sitting here saying, oh, you got Trump, and let's see among the Democrats. But do understand, the person who wins the White House appoints federal judges. The other day, Trump stood up talking about the 100th federal judge who he appointed, meaning they're going to be there for life. I just told y'all Damon J. Keith died on Sunday, age 96, was still hearing cases. He was 96 years old. And so if you think that the presidential race has no bearing on your life, let me explain to you. President appoints Supreme Court, which impacts gerrymandering, state level, gubernatorial mansions, state senate, state reps, which then impacts county government, city hall, boards of education. It impacts the entire process. Julian mentioned censusing. Millions, billions of dollars tied to census. Who control how census are determined? Districts, population. At some point, y'all got to tell Pookie and Laquan and tell Keisha and tell Kim and all these confused-ass black people who believe that this stuff doesn't matter has a direct impact, because when you sue for discrimination, who's going to be the judge hearing your case? When you want to file a class action lawsuit, who's hearing your case? Who's hearing cases right now on environmental justice, on environmental racism? Who's hearing any of these cases? Don't think for a second that who the president is has no bearing on your life. All of this is a result of this political system. And if you sit out, that's exactly what they want you to do.
Exactly.
Because they want you to stay home. They want you to stay home. Literally, 20 seconds, I got to go to my next interview. Go ahead.
Some of us live in progressive enclaves like D.C. or San Francisco or Seattle. But what these conservative state legislatures are doing are attempting to avoid the laws in these progressive enclaves. And so when they go to court, when San Francisco sues, who are the judges who are going to hear that?
And I think that's a very good comment when it comes to the judiciary, right? Because for the average person, the Supreme Court is an anomaly, not understanding that the ruling of the Supreme Court judges have lifetime effects, right?
Yeah.
Most people can't even tell you who sits on the Supreme Court.
Not even lifetime,
right.
Generational.
Generational. Yeah.
Generational.
Exactly.
Roland Martin Unfiltered, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.